I hope everybody's doing well tonight. Just want to get on, try some new things, do a little experimentation. Going to do a quick little video here and just a quick, very encapsulated short video on a quick topic that I just did some research on in the last 25 minutes or so. So yesterday, you may have seen a series of videos on Twitter about a court ruling and a series of court rulings pertaining to Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And he was wrongly deported to El Salvador, kind of. We'll get there in a second. There was a series of tweets. All of them got, over 1 million views yesterday. There was a tweet from Midas Touch, which is a liberal it's a liberal account from what I can tell, claiming that this other video that @Aiken, forgive me if I pronounced it wrong, ACYN, posted of Stephen Miller sparring with the press in the Oval Office. It's 41 seconds long. And then a longer video of Stephen Miller sparring with the press outside the White House that has about 3.1 million views and is over 10 minutes long. And the core of the video with Miller outside the press that Eric Doherty posted, at Eric L. Dahl, posted, was that the press didn't know the difference between a withholding order and a deportation order. Now, I myself did not know the difference and had never heard of a withholding order, so I went and looked it up. And his point was that the press was reporting on this and reporting on the ruling without actually looking up the legal situation that the individual in question is in. So I've got some notes here. My iPad is dead. So we're on the very Nixon-pilled yellow legal pad. So we'll just go over a couple things here and I will break this down for you guys, and I hope you'll stick around. And if you do like this, make sure to click subscribe. I'm trying to do some regular uploads. I'm going to try to get to build up to very regular uploads of this shorter content type that is very easy to put out, where I just focus on the analysis and less on the bells and whistles that I do in my day job, and just focus more on the analysis, because I know that's what you guys are here for, not so much my bells and whistles. And I appreciate that very much, actually. I do appreciate that you guys are here more for the analysis than the bells and whistles. Anyway, I went and read the Supreme Court decision. It is 9-0, although there is a note, an addendum kind of tacked on to the end that Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson signed on to in the decision, but it seems to only be from those three. That has some little addendums, but it's relatively unimportant. I'll add a note for you guys at the end. So a couple things. We're going to be referring to in this discussion just the USA, or the United States. In federal court cases, especially when you're reading federal court decisions, the United States refers to the government of the United States. There is a position at the Department of Justice actually called the Solicitor General, and their job basically is to be the United States lawyer, the lawyer for the government of the United States. So whenever you hear the United States referred to, just think of the government of the United States as the defendant in this case. I believe they're the defendant. Well, technically they're the applicant, because this is an application for a vacation of an order. So anyway, that's some vocabulary to make this more clear. So what is a deportation order? What's a withholding order? A deportation order is an order that you have to leave the United States. A withholding order is that the United States cannot deport you to a specific country because the United States has a reasonable belief that your freedom or freedom or safety might be harmed, I think I didn't write it down, but basically you can't be deported to a specific country. Now, I'm just going to refer to this individual as Garcia because I'm not saying 4 names every time. Whatever. Garcia had a withholding order from El Salvador, which meant he could not be deported to El Salvador. And the reason he had a withholding order from El Salvador was not due to the El Salvadorian government. In fact, it was due to a different El Salvadorian gang known as Barrio 18, who had repeatedly made threats on his family and was ostensibly, according to him, the reason that he left the country. So that's worth noting too, is that where he is now, he is not in danger of the safety violation that the immigration court originally granted the withholding order for. That withholding order, while it legally still applies, does not in reality still apply because the situation in El Salvador is completely different. But I recognize that doesn't matter in legal things. I just want everybody to be clear about what's happening here, that the things that everybody is scared that this guy might suffer, like the withholding order for safety and freedom, did not refer to the El Salvadorian government's CECOT prison, CECOT center. Whatever, I'll put it on screen. I'm not going to look it up. CECOT prison, which is where he's held currently. So that is not the thing that he is supposedly unsafe in. The withholding order specifically refers to a different gang, which he is, from what I can tell, not in danger of being exposed to because he's in a prison, like the most secure prison for gang members in the world. So there's that. The District Court for Maryland ordered, quote, the United States to, quote, facilitate and effectuate the return of Garcia to the United States by no later than 11:59 p.m. on Monday, April 7th. On the morning of Monday, April 7th, the United States filed an application to vacate the order of the District Court, which just basically means like, nah, it's not there. Get rid of it. The Chief Justice, Justice Roberts, granted a temporary restraining, I think it's referred to as a temporary restraining order on this. Basically, he said that, temporarily it's withheld while the order is not, it doesn't matter while the Supreme Court looks at the case. The Supreme Court said, quote, that it was granted in part and denied in part. The parts it was denied in were basically that the majority of the district court's order holds, but obviously the deadline is now passed, so that's not in effect. And then the other thing they tack on here, and this is the really important part of this, the intended scope of the term, quote, effectuate, is unclear and may exceed the district court's authority. The district court should clarify its directive with due regard for the deference owed the executive branch in the conduct of foreign affairs. Now, they say that this is part of the denial of the government, right? This is part of like them upholding the district court's ruling. But in reality, they also say that one of the key phrases, right, to facilitate and effectuate, is unclear and it may exceed the district court's authority. So they're basically saying, like they're doing a little shell game here. It seems very political, basically to just say they're upholding the order when in reality they're saying that it needs to be changed. The intended scope of the order needs to be made more clear and changed in some way. The thing earlier I mentioned, the addendum, I don't know what the technical term for it, tacked on by Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, basically is just that like the United States really should bring this guy back. We really should bring this guy back. We really should bring this guy back. That's all it is. And even they agree, even Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, the 3 liberal justices, and Amy Coney Barrett, she's the liberal one too. She just didn't sign on to this at this time, but that's a different conversation for a different day. They even agree that when he's brought back that he would have to go through the same due process of law as any other illegal. So they even agree, in the ruling that if he's brought back, he's going to be deported again, which was Stephen Miller's larger point. So then the bigger question here, the side question is, was this individual an MS-13 gang member? There are two key pieces of evidence. The first one is that the United States government does have a confidential informant who is a high-ranking MS-13 member who claims that he is in MS-13. The other thing is lives in Maryland, right? And he was born in El Salvador. And he often wears Chicago Bulls jersey and Chicago Bulls hats. And when he was arrested in a Home Depot parking lot while looking for construction work in 2019, he was wearing the Chicago Bulls hat. Now, this is, you might be thinking, so what? But I was able to find an NPR article from 2017. And once again, I did about 25 minutes of research on this, but I was able to find an NPR article from 2017 that said that they fully admit, they're arguing that it's, they're talking about this school in New York City where students of Hispanic, Latino students aren't allowed to wear Bulls jerseys, and they're the only ones who get in trouble for wearing Bulls jerseys because they admit that the bull horns and the Bulls jersey are associated with MS-13. Now they're trying to say you should, let these students wear this stuff. Now that's once again, we can go on and on. I can go off on a million tangents about all this stuff. This is once again, a different conversation for a different day. But the thing is, NPR in 2017 had no problem admitting that the Bulls jersey and the bull horns are a symbol used by MS-13. And then I found all of these photos. Now, these are photos of Barrio 18. I found an album of photos of Barrio 18 and MS-13 gang members. But of the MS-13 ones, you can see in multiple, you can see multiple instances, either they're throwing up the bull horns or one of them's got this bullhorn tattooed on his neck. The bullhorn's tattooed on his neck. So this Bulls jersey, this illegal wearing a Bulls jersey, who a confidential informant who is a high-ranking MS-13 member says is in MS-13, and then he's wearing known gang, what paraphernalia that is known to be associated with this gang. That's not are we? This is more evidence than the Democrats had for impeaching Trump the first time. All they had was a confidential informant. That's all they had on that. They just had the confidential informant saying he did a bad thing. So it seems like this guy was an MS-13 gang member. He was in fear for going back to El Salvador because he was in fear of a different gang, which is no longer a problem. And there was an administrative error that he got deported with the rest of the MS-13 gang members to this terrorist prison. And now the Trump administration is ordered to facilitate his return. If El Salvador wants to, President Bukele can just say no. The district court has no authority over President Bukele. The district court also has the district court also, even in remanding their order, the district court has to observe due regard for the deference that the executive branch is owed in conduct of foreign affairs. So that the district court can't tell them to demand the person back. So if he comes back, if Bukele wants to give him back, the United States has to take him back so that he can go through the process and be deported again. That's what's happening here. So I hope that makes it more clear. I've got a recipe for cheese sauce here if anybody wants that. Well, those measurements are off. What was I on? Anyway, y'all have a great night and revolt into sanity.